Today is Canada Day. For many, that's a reason to celebrate. For some, it's a reason to reflect on the past. And for some, it's controversial. Let me give you my 2 cents worth as somebody who doesn't know everything, but I've been a few places, I've seen a few things. Canada's not perfect. None of its groups or cultures are perfect. None of its individuals are perfect. But we're trying. We're doing a lot better than we were 150 years ago when this land officially became legally a country. That doesn't mean it's only been inhabited for 150 years. It just means that's how long the world outside of Canada has begun to recognize us as a nation. Now, Canada Day is celebrated with fireworks and events, and for most people, it's a positive occasion. But let's bear in mind, we still have work to do. We have come a long way since that day 150 years ago. But we still have work to do for equality and equal rights for women, for minorities, for the LGBTQ community, for many people. There are still biases, there are still prejudices. And yeah, I'm a middle class white guy, but I say that there are still prejudices as someone who spent 9 years of his adult life in a community where he was told he was only a mullah, which means white person or outsider, and attended conferences where the students in our school were told by community leaders that the North will be fine once we get rid of all the white people. That is not a paraphrase, that is a direct quote. I don't hold that against everyone who lives there at all. I hold it against a few individuals, much like I don't tolerate racism against any other group or sexism. I really don't care for that in any form, no matter who is representing it. But all in all, at least we have the right to stand up in this country and say what we agree with and what we disagree with. I'm an outspoken atheist. There are places on this planet where I would be killed, publicly executed, for saying that in a video. Let's take a look at some of our population. We're a country with many cultures. We're one of the few countries in the world that actually celebrates having many cultures. And much of our population is made up of or descended from immigrants. Look at some of the recent ones. If you want to wonder whether Canada is really a good place to live, take a look at some of the places these refugees are escaping. You want to see persecution? Take a look. There are places in the world where it is a really life and death situation. Canadian governments, Canadian officials, Canadian citizens have made mistakes over the years. Whether you are a member of an Indigenous person, whether you're a member of a visible minority or a disabled group, or whether you were a Japanese Canadian living in this country during World War II, you know that there are still mistakes made, there are still biases. The whole residential school fiasco, terrible things happened. Terrible things happened to my father in a residential school. He wasn't even First Nations, but he was unlucky enough to be a Protestant kid in a Jesuit school in the 1930s. Not a good place to be. What do we celebrate? We celebrate the soldiers who defend our country. We celebrate the people who do good things for each other and for our country. We celebrate our country's wonderful reputation around the world. Are we perfect? No. Do we still have work to do? Yes. But unlike, many places in the world, unlike many places, we are actually willing to do that work. There are bigots in this country. There are uneducated people in terms of, and I don't mean in terms of not being high school graduates, not being college graduates. I mean in terms of what equality really means, what fairness really means, what justice really means. It wouldn't be one of my videos if I wasn't photobombed by a cat, would it? Um, we do have problems. We do have issues. But I think the vast majority of Canadians are an accepting people. And that we have a bond that goes beyond color, that goes beyond race, that goes beyond religion. Um, we really have come a long way. There's the cat again. We really have come a long way in, the tens of thousands of years this land has been inhabited, in the 400 plus years since Europeans have arrived, in the years since we've seen our Asian population grow, in the years that we have accepted refugees from Europe and the Middle East and various other countries and parts of the world. we have seen our country grow and change, and it really is one of the best places on earth. Now, do we have work to do? Yes, we do. Are we perfect? No, we're not. But we're ahead of the pack. We're doing better than most places. And unlike our neighbors to the south, we have a government that's actually fairly progressive and willing to address these issues and willing to see us as a multicultural society. Most of the forms of discrimination we see still in Canada, if you look at the root causes, they're actually illegal. Other countries are looking at um, whether discrimination should be illegal, should not be. It already is in most of its forms here in Canada. That doesn't mean that law is always enforced. That doesn't mean people are always caught. That doesn't mean that there's not private bigotry and prejudice within the country, within citizens. Look up and down the street you live on, you'll find people who hold negative opinions of groups of people. Now, everybody has their own biases, their own prejudices. We all make assumptions based on people. As somebody who's a writer, I know that the idea of a stereotype can actually be useful. Rather than spending 20 pages developing a character, I might simply say someone is a farmer or an astronaut or a police officer or a teacher and let the reader make assumptions as to what that means to them. Does that mean everyone fits into that block? No, of course it doesn't. Um, I was a teacher for over 20 years. Am I the same as every other teacher out there? No, absolutely not. I have different views than from many of them. I was better than some and worse than others. Um, I don't hold myself up as being perfect either. But I do feel that I have a perspective that some people in my demographic might not have, which is a middle class, white male from Eastern Canada. And that is, I have A, as a person who has visible differences, having Tourette syndrome, seen people look at me and stare and laugh and point. And I have B, lived in a community where I was a visible racial minority for about a third of my adult life. So, do I know everything about this topic? No. Do I pretend to know what it feels like to be subject to systematic discrimination over a period of generations? I'm not claiming I know that. And I'm not claiming we fixed all the problems. But damn it, we can. Let's work together. Don't look at Canada today as a reason to invent controversy. Look at it as a reason to come together. Let's celebrate what we've done and let's make a plan. Let's keep going. We're not there yet, but we can be. Happy Canada Day.